Hey everybody, Eric Hayden here on YouTube. Just got back from the big rose show in South Carolina. It's put on by the South Carolina Rose Society in conjunction with the South Carolina State Fair. So it was actually on Friday, October 10th. Really nice show. The folks down there do a great job. Super cordial, a lot of good competition, and had a lot of fun. One of the reasons why I do that, our rose shows aren't as prevalent as they used to be in not just North Carolina, but across the United States. So the closest rose show for me is Columbia, South Carolina, or Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That's about a 4.5 to 5 hour drive from me. I actually left at 1 a.m. on Friday. I did not sleep the night before because, you know, usually get pretty excited for a rose show and you want to get the roses there as fresh as possible. So I wait up until the last moment to leave, take the roses either out of the refrigerator or out of my house, straight into the van, and then straight to the show itself. Getting there about 6 o'clock and then entering the roses by 10 o'clock. But we're going to do a whole video on that. I did win Queen of Show. Queen is the top hybrid tea rose in that category. So it goes Queen, King, and also Princess. Some shows do Prince and do a Court. This particular show did Queen, King, and Princess. I got Queen with Sunny Sundays, which is the top hybrid tea rose, and I got Princess third place with Louise Estes. I've showed you some of these blooms, or at least protection for it, over the last couple days, and I'm going to go more in depth on the rose show and do a video on that. One reason why I'm out bright and early, I didn't get back until about 20 minutes, 15 minutes before dusk. We've had a major storm, or a big coastal storm here in eastern North Carolina and up and down the East Coast. So almost 2 inches of rain last night, but more importantly, some real strong winds forecasted to be 40 to 45 miles per hour. I ran in the garden yesterday evening, cut some blooms despite the rain and wind. My wife is in a local show, the musical Chicago, so I wanted to bring her some flowers. So I got those roses cut, but unfortunately I didn't have time to do anything more. What I would have done before a wind, stake things up or bring things down. So that's today's video. We're going to talk about what you can do to prevent what's happening behind me, that rocking action. Notice the roses back and forth, back and forth. When you have tall roses, some folks prune them down in the fall because they don't want the winter winds to knock them over. The taller they are, the more rocking back and forth those roses will do. So a lot of people do lower the roses in the fall. I haven't done it yet because of the rose show. I ran out of time. I'm going to show you what happens if you don't. Unfortunately, we lost a couple canes on Claire Elise. I'll show you that. But real quickly through the garden, I've got church here in an hour, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time. What my goal is to literally lower the rose bush by a couple feet not haphazardly, but pretty quickly, because I want to get this done because we're going to be windy again today and I don't want to lose any more rose canes. At the very least, I'll start with the ones that have blooms on them because they're heavier, especially when you have some rain on them. They're going back and forth, back and forth. These are all over 6 feet. Some are 7, 8, 9 feet tall. So that's why I've got to do that. So let me show you what happens if you don't do that here in the garden. So here's what the garden looks like as we came back. This is Sunday morning, a couple days from the show. Some nice blooms. I was able to cut my wife some more Louise Estes, some Hot Princess, Randy Scott, really good stuff. And here's the winning Queen bush. You'll notice hardly any blooms on that because I took them all off. I don't know if there's a lot of scientific evidence of that. With apples and some certain crops, if you take them off, the ones remaining will be bigger. I tried to do that with Sunny Sundays, and the bloom was decent size, but anywho, I don't have anything on, and this was the Queen stem. There's the cover. I put that down on the ground, but here was the stem itself, and I cut it. I always cut it to look forward to the future, so cut it with an outside butt eye. But the garden is growing well, but again, it's very, very tall, and this is what your garden may look like. You might say, well, Eric, I don't have them that tall, but your roses undoubtedly are taller in October than they are coming out of the winter. Everybody's garden is at its peak height as we head into the fall. And you see what happens. This is crystalline. It is bent over. It's not broken. Some are pretty flexible. But what I'm going to do here is, with all those leaves, and then especially if it has blooms, once you get some water on them, they become quite heavy. So I'm just going to do, not a haphazard, but just a quick demonstration. If I remove most of this, I'm going to go a little more aggressive down to this set of 5 leaves. When I just do this, if I could do it with one hand, that cane is pretty big. Snap back. That cane snapped back and now it's no longer hanging. So just removing things that are overhanging is a good first step. Again, ideally I would have done this prior to the storm. I am a meteorologist, so I knew the storm was coming. I just ran out of time. Everybody at a row show says, oh, the week before I had this, or the next week I have this. Here's a good example. Here's Let Freedom Ring. Look at this cane. You know, it's probably a couple weeks away, but gigantic cane. But on this Let Freedom Ring, this is another example. It has not broken yet. I have some beautiful canes and some beautiful buds up top, so it's kind of hard to do this because in another week to 10 days, those will be beautiful blooms. But I don't want this. You see how this is just rocking back and forth? So with you here, real quickly, I'm going to take out those canes, and I'm doing this on camera at the same time, so I'm a little haphazard, but I'm cutting to an outside bud eye and just boom. I'm doing this kind of quick because it is quite windy. We might have winds up over 40 miles per hour again today. So take that down, and it's painstakingly hurting me to do this because it's such a nice cane, but we'll take that one down as well. I gotta sharpen these pruners up a little bit. They seem like they're a little dull. So just with one hand, I've already lowered the risk for that bush falling over because I've lowered the canes, and I could do this one as well. Let's come in here and just do this. So again, prior to a big windstorm, Let Freedom Ring is pretty much done. Look how much lower it is, and it's still, you know, 5 feet. It's not like I'm hacking it, but I'll just leave those in the garden. I'll pick them up later today. Do I usually do this? No. I have a tarp out. I have a wheelbarrow. I'm much more organized, but this morning the goal is to prevent this. This happened before the row show. This is Let Freedom Ring, and the unfortunate one is Claire Lease. This happened because of the storm. You can see Claire is quite an aggressive growing bush. It did get a first place ribbon. Unfortunately didn't make the final 11 at the show, but the bush itself is doing great. But I did lose 2 major canes because of the storm last night into today. I won't give up on them. I have a lot of experience since we have hurricanes here by the coast, and I live 3 miles from the coast, so I won't give up on it. But you can see they snapped at the base, so that may be it for it. And it's not like I'm going to lose the bush. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more huge canes, so I'm not overly worried. But I never like to give up on a row. So what I'll do here today is I'll probably just leave it be, but eventually I'll just come in here and take all that off, just like I did in the crystalline, maybe right about here, and then lightly stake that up. When I have time, I do stake the roses, and I could always be doing a better job at staking. So I won Queen a show, doing well, pretty Facebook pictures. I'm always looking to improve. Again, it's not something you have to stress over, but I did stake this this rose, Hot Princess, up because it's a newer rose in my garden before the show. But so that's an improvement. But the other improvement I'm going to do is get bigger bamboo stakes. These are the ones they sell at the big box stores. I see on Facebook Marketplace some advertise free to hardly anything. Huge ones growing in our area. I'm going to get some thicker poles because that's just not going to cut it. So to prevent that rocking, because again, this is a new bush. It only has 3 canes. This is a maiden rose that I got from Steve Singer, planted in April. I don't want that to snap, because if that does, I only have 3. So you see how it's really rocking with those blooms on top. If I just come in here and just at least take off the blooms, and again, am I usually this haphazard? I shouldn't say haphazard, because I'm cutting to an outside bud eye, but I'm also holding this with one hand, and I'm doing my thing here. But by just taking off at least some blooms and a foot or 2 of the rose bush, let's come up in here, much better. That shouldn't be rocking nearly as much, and ideally it'd be better if I got a thicker bamboo stake on eventually. So that's it in the garden. I'm going to try to get at this. You can see the winds are really really whipping these roses around. Here's an example of Pope John Paul II. It's not over, it's not bent over in terms of breaking, but just with this heavy amount of foliage and blooms, if I just come up in here and just try to at least relieve some pressure on this bush, that will certainly, you see how this, look how that just bounces back, just boom, just like that. I mentioned I have experience. I'll end the video with this. This is my neighbor's fence, different neighbors now, but it was blown down completely 2018 Hurricane Florence. This whole fence was in my yard into the roses. In particular, Mr. Lincoln and Alina were at a 45-degree angle. They were blown over. So I have experience with 90, 100 mile per hour winds, and I showed it on, if you go old school on my videos, I've been doing this YouTube channel for a long time, and I don't even think you can see it anymore. Yeah, they all look pretty straight. But for the longest time, you know, I cut some of the rows back, and I just left it at a 45-degree angle. And you could see that the canes coming out of the bud union were 45 degrees, you know, kind of pushed to the side. And I never staked it back up. I just relieved the pressure by pruning it down, and then it eventually started growing straight. So the bottom of the plant was crooked, and then, you know, as the plant adjusted for the sun, it started growing straight. So it was fine. So these roses are doing quite fine, and they were completely knocked over in a hurricane. I have had some examples. I lost a moonstone. I think that was root rot, because we had close to 30 inches of rain in addition to the strong wind. So I have lost some roses because of the wind and storms overall. So that is an oldie but a goodie. I've never grown it before. That is Touch of Class. Especially in the 80s and then somewhat in the 90s, it was a top exhibition rose. This was at one of the big box stores in April, I think I got it. And the price was right. It was $16, and it had 3 huge canes, and it actually looked healthy. Kind of rare these days. Usually nothing against a knockout rose, but usually that's all they sell at the big box stores. So I'm happy. I don't know if it'll make it to the show, but as an exhibitor, I wanted to have an old classic rose. And I certainly did that. So let me get at it. I've got to get going to church here soon, so I need to get hopping, as they say, and at least lower some of those bushes. And you can see I did that with Let Freedom Ring, and I'll just kind of come by here, and just like when I'm in a row show, just like when I'm pressed for time at work, you prioritize. So my priority next is probably that Ring of Fire. That already bent over some. You can kind of see how this happens. This is prior to the show. There's the bud union I'm talking about, and it's not quite like Alina and Mr. Lincoln, but you can see it's at maybe a 60-degree angle because of the wind, and that's been happening even prior to the show. I showed you the winning bush of Sunny Sundays. The princess bush right here is Louise Estes. I have 2 of these, and I talk about getting exhibition roses from Wisconsin Roses. This is one that I got many years ago, I think about 6 years ago now, but electric blooms, especially in slightly cooler weather. It's a pink blend, but those blooms are exceptional. And the thing that stands out about Louise Estes is the growth. You can see that cane up there, probably about 9 feet tall. So let me get these lowered so I don't lose any more canes in the garden. And I see one more bloom to leave you with. This is Claire Elise. Take care, everyone.